The alarm screamed at 5:47 a.m., but Cameron Reed was already awake, staring at the ceiling of his Pearl District loft in Portland. The numbers glowed red like a countdown to his own destruction. In 18 days, Richard Blackwood would either write a $15 million check or destroy everything Cameron had built from his family's rejection. His phone buzzed with another email from Blackwood's assistant. Timeline confirmation required. Cameron's stomach churned. The old man wasn't just demanding expansion. He was demanding Cameron prove his company was worth the investment. Despite his lifestyle choices, across town, Tyler Morrison sat at his kitchen table above Morrison's auto repair, watching Sophie draw families while eating cereal. Her latest masterpiece showed 3 stick figures under a rainbow, Mom in heaven, Sophie in the middle, and a blank space where the third person should be. The garage had been in his family for 30 years. Grace used to say it was their anchor in Seattle's changing Capitol Hill neighborhood. Now it felt like an anchor dragging him underwater. Sophie looked up with impossibly wise 7-year-old eyes. "Daddy, why don't you have someone to take care of you like other dads?" Tyler's chest tightened. 3 years since Grace's funeral, and he still wore his wedding ring. Grace had known he was gay before he found courage to say it. She'd loved him anyway, made him promise to find happiness again before cancer took her voice. Hannah Morrison knocked without waiting, carrying coffee and wearing that expression that meant she'd made decisions about Tyler's life. Her divorce had taught her that people needed pushing to remember they were allowed to want things. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen was staging his intervention in Portland. He'd watched Cameron channel heartbreak into ambition, building Reed's sustainable fashion from fury and determination. But Cameron had forgotten how to be human. 16-hour days, takeout at his desk, no dates in 2 years. The plan was simple. Force Cameron out of his comfort zone, make him remember connection with someone who wasn't an investor or employee. If Cameron could stop being CEO for one night, maybe he'd remember why he started the company. Neither Tyler nor Cameron knew their friends were plotting intervention. Neither suspected a broken alternator would become the catalyst for everything after. Sometimes the universe has humor about moments that change everything. Sometimes people we need show up when we think we have nothing left. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to Heart Stories for tales of love finding its way through impossible circumstances. The Tesla's dashboard lit up like Christmas between Portland and Seattle, warning lights blinking disaster. Cameron pulled over at Snoqualmie Pass as snow began falling harder. His phone showed no signal, temperature dropping, and his sustainable transportation had become an expensive paperweight. 20 minutes later, headlights cut through snow. A pickup truck pulled over, hazards flashing. Tyler Morrison looked like he belonged in this landscape. Work boots, worn fleece, hands that knew tools and engines. He approached with unhurried confidence but gentle concern. Tyler had been driving back from Greenwood Memorial Cemetery, where he'd talked to Grace about Sophie's drawings and Hannah's matchmaking attempts. When he saw the Tesla's hazards, stopping was instinct. He diagnosed the problem in 5 minutes. Alternator failure, fixable but not without parts. What surprised him was the conversation. Most expensive car owners treated mechanics like furniture. This guy listened, asked intelligent questions, seemed genuinely grateful. Cameron found himself studying Tyler's hands as he worked. Strong, capable, gentle. Tyler explained repairs like teaching rather than showing off, and his voice made Cameron's shoulders relax for the first time in weeks. They talked while Tyler jerry-rigged a fix. Cameron mentioned his company without dropping names. Tyler talked about Sophie without mentioning Grace's absence. Both shared more than intended, drawn into conversation that usually took months to develop. Tyler followed Cameron's taillights through mountain passes, telling himself it was ensuring the repair held. Really, he was curious about this businessman who listened like words mattered. They both ended up at Evergreen Cafe on Capitol Hill, a neighborhood institution in a converted Victorian house. Harper Nguyen had owned the cafe 15 years, watching the neighborhood change while keeping doors open to everyone. Tonight, he expected 2 strangers arranged to meet through mutual friends. When Tyler and Cameron walked in together, Harper's expression shifted to delighted surprise. The energy between them was unmistakable. Recognition was worth savoring. Cameron's eyes went wide. Tyler laughed out loud. Harper led them to a corner booth where countless first dates had bloomed or crashed. They shook their heads at the cosmic joke, the blind date they'd both avoided, the chance encounter that wasn't chance. Cameron felt lighter than he had in months. Tyler felt something that might be hope. The conversation was nothing like either expected. They talked about loss and responsibility, building something meaningful, the weight of expectations. Cameron explained his family's rejection without usual armor. Tyler shared Sophie's stories that made Cameron laugh. Neither mentioned being gay explicitly, but understanding hung between them like shared secret. They recognized safety in subtle cues. What they found was possibility wrapped in patience. Understanding develops in layers. Sometimes it takes months to feel comfortable with someone. Sometimes it happens over coffee and vulnerability, when guarded hearts recognize something familiar and safe in growing connection. Cameron's Tesla died 6 blocks from the cafe. Tyler's fix had worked, but Seattle's hills demanded more than the solution could deliver. They sat in Tyler's pickup, laughing at the irony while snow continued falling. The garage occupied a brick building that had housed everything from speakeasies to corner markets. Tyler's grandfather bought it in 1972, when Capitol Hill was affordable for working families. Now developers circled like vultures. Sophie was waiting upstairs, asleep on the couch with her sketchbook. Tyler lifted her gently, and Cameron watched the careful tenderness in his movements. She woke enough to register a stranger, eyes wide with curiosity rather than alarm. Cameron introduced himself like she was a person worth knowing. Within minutes, Sophie had spread artwork across the coffee table, explaining each piece with serious intensity. Her drawings showed sophisticated understanding that impressed Cameron professionally. This wasn't just creativity. Sophie had genuine talent. She'd been drawing fashion designs, inspired by videos on Tyler's laptop. Cameron found himself genuinely engaged, asking about design choices, suggesting material effects. Tyler watched from the kitchen doorway, something warm spreading through his chest. He hadn't seen Sophie this animated with new people since Grace died. Cameron explained sustainable fashion in terms Sophie could understand. Clothes made without hurting the planet, workers paid fairly, materials that wouldn't poison rivers. Sophie listened with intense focus she reserved for favorite movies. Tyler made hot chocolate while Cameron and Sophie spread fabric samples across the floor. Organic cotton, plant-dyed colors, hemp softer than traditional fabric, recycled polyester that performed like new. Sophie touched each reverently, asking about texture and whether dresses could change colors in different light. The afternoon dissolved into evening without notice. They ordered pizza and ate it on the floor, surrounded by Sophie's art and Cameron's samples. It felt natural in a way that surprised all three, like they'd been doing this for years. Sophie fell asleep between them during her favorite movie, head on Cameron's shoulder. Tyler started to move her, but Cameron shook his head gently. She was fine where she was. They talked quietly while Sophie slept, conversation meandering through childhood memories and future dreams. Cameron shared stories about growing up wealthy but lonely. Tyler talked about learning mechanical skills when his relationship with his father was built on shared work rather than disappointment. Sophie woke enough to ask the question that changed everything. "Are you going to be my other dad?" Tyler's face went red. Cameron's heart skipped beats. But Sophie wasn't embarrassed. She'd been thinking about family structure with childish logic. The moment stretched between them, loaded with possibility and terror. Neither was ready for that conversation. But neither wanted to dismiss Sophie's question outright. That night, both men lay awake thinking about Sophie's innocent question. The possibility hung between them like a bridge they weren't sure they were brave enough to cross. What neither knew was that Sophie had overheard Cameron mention his company's potential expansion address. Market Street, the same street where Morrison's Auto Repair had served the community for 30 years. Sometimes love arrives just as life's foundations begin shifting. Sometimes the person who makes us believe in possibility again threatens to destroy everything we've worked to protect. Cameron's hands shook, reading Sophie's text for the 10th time. A photo of her drawing with caption that stopped his world. My new dress design for when the fancy people buy our building on Market Street. Daddy says we might move, but I hope they let us stay. The address matched exactly. Morrison's Auto Repair sat on the corner lot, read sustainable fashion needed for their flagship store. The building was Tyler's family legacy. Sophie's home. Everything anchoring them to their community. Cameron drove to Portland in panic and guilt. He'd negotiated acquisition through intermediaries, never asking who owned the property. The building was just numbers on spreadsheets, square footage, and zoning. He hadn't considered real people with real lives being displaced. Marcus found him at 2 a.m., staring at architectural renderings that now looked like weapons. The flagship design called for complete demolition. Morrison's Auto Repair would be erased, replaced by gleaming retail space designed to attract international buyers. Cameron told Marcus everything. The blind date that wasn't blind, the connection that felt like coming home, the little girl who drew families and asked questions that made him want to be better, the man who fixed his car and maybe his heart. Who would lose everything if Cameron chose to save his company? Marcus's questions cut to the heart. What about their 200 employees? What about the sustainable fashion industry needing successful examples? What about 8 years building something meaningful from family rejection's ashes? Tyler was asking similar questions. Sophie had been quiet for days, drawing empty buildings and families waving goodbye. Other kids discussed the potential sale. Their parents worked in shops that might be affected by proposed development. Pressure had been building for months. Property taxes rising faster than garage income. Developers leaving increasingly aggressive voicemails. Tyler had resisted, but Sophie's education expenses loomed, and the building needed repairs he couldn't afford. Hannah confronted Cameron at his Portland office with Sophie's latest drawing, watercolor showing 3 stick figures under storm clouds. The message was clear even to a 7-year-old. Their new family was in danger. Hannah didn't waste pleasantries. She'd watched Tyler fall apart after Grace, slowly rebuild happiness, witnessed Cameron's transformation of both Tyler and Sophie. If Cameron thought he could disappear without explanation, he'd learn how protective Morrison women could be. Meanwhile, Tyler faced escalating harassment. Slurs spray-painted across garage windows. Anonymous calls about raising Sophie in environments promoting deviant behavior. The community meeting about development had become a referendum on whether the neighborhood wanted Tyler's kind of family. Blackwood's deadline loomed. January 15th, 12 days to decide everyone's future. Cameron stopped eating, sleeping, returning Tyler's worried calls. Marcus watched his best friend disappear into depression that had nearly claimed Cameron during family rejection. Tyler drove to Portland after 3 days of silence. He found Cameron in offices at midnight, surrounded by projections and timelines. Cameron looked like he hadn't slept in days, professional armor stripped away. The conversation was quiet and devastating. Cameron explained acquisition plans, development timeline, employment consequences if Reed's sustainable fashion failed to expand. Tyler listened without anger, understanding finally why Cameron had vanished. They sat as snow began falling. 2 men who loved each other but couldn't see a path through destruction that love would require. Tyler spoke about Sophie's attachment to their apartment, the garage's community role, his promise to Grace about roots and stability. Cameron talked about 200 employees, sustainable fashion mission, 8 years building meaning from rejection's wreckage. Neither blamed the other. They recognized that sometimes love arrives at exactly the wrong moment, when choosing happiness means destroying everything else you have protected. Some choices require more courage than picking right answers. Sometimes the bravest thing is refusing to choose destruction at all. Cameron spent Christmas Eve walking through downtown Portland, past Pioneer Courthouse Square, decorated for holidays, watching families navigate festive crowds. At Burnside Bridge, he stared at the Willamette River, thinking about Grace's greenhouse Tyler had shown him, the sacred space where she'd designed jewelry and dreamed about family's future. The solution came as gradual recognition of possibility hidden within constraints he'd been fighting. Heritage and innovation didn't have to be opposites. Morrison's auto repair could become foundation for something larger, rather than obstacle to progress. He called his architect Christmas morning, sketching ideas while explaining adaptive reuse, preserve the garage's street-level operations while building sustainable retail space above, create mixed-use development that honored neighborhoods' working-class history while providing expansion space. The new design was ambitious, expensive, and brilliant. Instead of erasing Morrison's auto repair, it would showcase the garage as integral to development's character. Tyler would become Cameron's business partner rather than victim. Blackwood's presentation took place in the conference room where Cameron first pitched Reed's sustainable fashion. This time, he wasn't asking for charity. He was offering Blackwood investment in something unprecedented. Development representing community partnership rather than corporate conquest. Blackwood listened with cold calculation, but something shifted when Cameron explained cultural impact. This wasn't just retail space, it was sustainable development model preserving neighborhood character while encouraging economic growth. The kind of project attracting national attention. Tyler's reaction was everything Cameron hoped and feared. Surprise, gratitude, and wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust solutions seeming too good to be true. They met at Evergreen Cafe, same corner booth where their blind date had transformed. Cameron spread architectural drawings like peace offerings, explaining how Tyler's garage would anchor development's ground floor, while expanded operations occupied basement level. Tyler would maintain garage ownership while becoming Cameron's property development partner. Sophie studied drawings with serious concentration, asking about sight lines and customer flow that impressed both men. When she realized her bedroom would overlook the new fashion studio, her excitement was infectious. The community presentation took place at Capitol Hill Community Center. Tyler and Cameron stood together, explaining how the project would preserve existing businesses while creating new neighborhood opportunities. Construction began in March, attracting attention from urban planning conferences and sustainable development journals. Cameron spoke about adaptive reuse and community partnership, topics that now seem central to his company's mission. The grand opening took place on warm September evening, 18 months after their Snoqualmie Pass meeting. Morrison's Auto Repair occupied ground floor, enlarged but retaining neighborhood character. Reed's Sustainable Fashion's flagship store gleamed above, connected by dramatic staircase celebrating rather than concealing working-class foundation. Sophie cut ribbon-wearing dress she designed with Cameron's guidance, made from organic fabrics and sustainable materials. Local news covered the unusual automotive fashion partnership, but people who mattered understood the real story. Tyler proposed that evening, same cafe booth where they discovered their coincidence. The ring had been Grace's, reset into design honoring past while looking toward future. Sophie had helped plan every detail. Their wedding took place in the garage's work bay, transformed into celebration space but retaining tools representing Tyler's family legacy. Sophie served as official coordinator, wearing another original design. Cameron's family sent congratulatory card, first communication since coming out 10 years earlier. Not apology or reconciliation invitation, but acknowledgement. Sometimes healing happens in small steps over long distances. The project's success led to consulting opportunities throughout Pacific Northwest, chances to help communities navigate development while preserving local character. They learned partnership could be more powerful than conquest. Have you ever wondered what happens when we choose collaboration over competition? When we build bridges instead of walls? Share your thoughts on how communities can grow without losing their hearts. Subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of love that transforms neighborhoods as well as lives.